truth unveiled. Their program has failed. Their empire crumbling down. They'll try to erase you, discredit and disgrace you, subdue you when you said too much. But there's one thing they weren't expecting. A great awakening. Oh, what is happening? They might try to cut us down, but we're spreading underground. We are stronger than you know. From dark to light we grow. The bots, the spies, Google its lies are keeping most in the dark. On your TV, the garbage you see has others mesmerized. But something is changing, momentum is gaining. The people are opening their eyes.
Come on. I'll tell you what, guys. Apple's not your friend. That's what I'm going to tell you right now. Like, what the fuck is this? Really? What in the fuck? Really? Cue the music. I had a whole beautiful little segue for you all until I plugged in one of these tablets for our chat room and just shit all over it. So, yep, so many swears today. So many swears. It's Swear Sunday. No, I'm kidding. It's not. I'm just gonna have to bring some redemption with this track 3 suitcases. Jeez. Apologies for the late show, everybody. Yeah. Hi. Welcome. Thanks for coming to the broadcast. Yeah. What a disappointment. You know, you can say I'm crazy. You can say I'm crazy, but every time we do shows, our Apple iCloud, which we do our slides from, freezes. Now, the reason I know that it's completely controlled is because I can go back and I can get a 2-hour video and click on it, and the cloud will put that off the computer. So it has to activate and, you know, communicate with the cloud. And it will download a 2-hour video. But the latest slides I did for the show, it will not read it, pretend it's not there. So, what kind of shenanigans are these? There's no coincidences. So, never happens, by the way. Any other time, never happens. Here we are, trying to get logged in even just to the chat room with you guys, so thank you for your patience. Hydrogen on. It's been a crazy morning, actually. Crazy morning, started 4 a.m. sadhana, 6 a.m. ice bath, holotropic yogic breath, with full CrossFit workout to boot that followed, and right into right into first treatment for me with a patient by 8. So I've been up for a long time, charged up. And here we are. I was ready an hour ago, sitting around, resetting the computer. Everything with the slides had been uploaded to the cloud, so I don't want to waste too much time on this. I just wanted to share with you guys. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they want to get me off. And thank you. Thank you, my Sikh friend. Exactly. That's calling it. We got to get a move on. And I guess because today's show, again, I don't see the reach that we have or significance, but apparently so, because we have quite a doozy of a show. Let's get us. Yeah, we're good there. There we go. We got a doozy of a show, always, as per usual, for Sunday, tapping into our divinity, exploring the Great Solar Flash as an event in the great prophecies of the times we're in, entering into the Great Tribulation. So, we got the Great Solar Flash. We're going to explore, trying to isolate and do smaller shows where we focus on a few things, which people have expressed they appreciate. I know it can get a little intimidating or just intense to have a 2-hour show to decode, and I love it. James True's usually got pretty lengthy shows, but I will watch it in sections even. But yeah, just preparing for the next program coming up. Got apprentices coming in today. They've been coming in for the last week, just getting them dialed. We got a lot of prerequisites to do actually before we do this, so sneaking in shows where I can. That's why it was so frustrating. I was ready to go to explore the true divinity of what we are for this Sunday show and just rock something out, because I have treatments literally right after we do the show. I'm going right into a treatment with a practitioner, apprentice here. So, and yeah, sabotaged again. So it's a fascinating thing to watch. And we literally sat here and watched us download from the cloud multiple videos, but it was blocking our slides to come up. So here we are. My apologies. They couldn't stop us. It's just a matter of, I guess, patience, really. Like, I'll wait as long as I have to do the show. Because we're exploring our divinity, as we do on Release Sundays Live. We will have some more interviews coming up. But again, just preparing for the big program, it's like I'm doing little decodes just to stay connected with you all, giving you updates. Like with Release Part 2, we're deep in the post-production, working on a track for the soundtrack itself, and getting into sound effects and playing with and recording the narration, and so much to do. It's a lot. But I do it for you all. Do it for humanity. Do it for the healing, Christed path, along with so much more content on our channel. Matrix Body Mechanics TV on YouTube. We got a ton of stuff on there that hasn't been censored. And then, of course, our shows on Monday are on Rumble. But including the film, Release the Movie Part 1. You can see the censored or uncensored version at releasethemovie.com. Feel free to share it. It's premiered, but it really has gone out to a very small fractal of the populace because we're so controlled, I was telling somebody yesterday it got censored. He was like, and we got banned, strikes and banned on YouTube. He was like, that's my ultimate confirmation for legitimacy of information. It's a badge of honor. And I think he's right, Hydrogen, activate now. So yeah, just been going through, preparing tomorrow's show. Monday decodes. We go deeper into stuff we can't cover on YouTube. And primarily the stuff we go over on our Intel channel at all caps MBMT channel. A lot of Intel coming in. Gonna be just the pressure is building up right now. Big things. We had a very tyrannical dictator-esque speech from Biden the other night, and same night, very, firing up counter event with the those referred to as enemies of the state now, for questioning anything that's not just handed to us with a spoonful of poop on top. So we can't talk about that stuff on here. And you know what? There's no need to, because we got cooler stuff to focus on, like how we can be prepared for, what many have profiled into a timeline now off of ancient prophecy, and we're right here. Coming into this part, it's about to get pretty hardcore and intense. Have some really powerful intel, specifically covering a lot of things you should really be aware of tomorrow on the broadcast. But for now, we're going to focus on one event specifically, the Great Solar Flash, as an event in the timeline that's depicted also in ancient prophecy. Higher vibrational cosmic energy causes planetary ascension every closely almost 26,000 years, which is a cosmic day, an epoch, if you will. Humanity goes through great change, great transformation, and in that, just queuing up my next track for you guys. We got to get at least one mix in, probably, before we fully get into it. But yeah, there's a great solar flash, wipes out all lower vibrational energies and darkness in the system. It's supposed to be from 2020 to 2024, possibly 2025. No negative entities will be able to withstand the newer, higher, what's called plasmic light entering into the solar system. And we were really supposed to get the memo on this and be preparing for it as a, conscious civilization for quite some time. But it's been kept from us, one of the greater deceptions that will eventually come forward. In what time and what relevance for those that are here? Well, latest I've heard is there's only about 15% of the population left that hasn't been, axed, so to speak. The big VEED. So if you learn the medical technology around that, you see the imminent next stage that's coming. So it's really about focusing on those that are waking up, that didn't choose to alter their genetic divinity. And, those are who have a shot to prepare for what's coming. So how do we prepare? What's applicable to us in our localized sphere? I think is a good question. Let me see. Oh, I don't want to do that. Let me just check this. I'm going to move this screen. Excuse me. Move it like this at least. A little bit more even. I don't know why this wasn't done already. All right. Back to reality. What's the formality? Great solar flash. It's a natural event of our sun, which occurs at the end of the precession of the equinoxes, 25,900 year cycle, roughly about 26,000 years. If you think about it, with the precession, you got 24 hours in a day. You got roughly 24 plus the precession, 25, almost 26,000 years per cosmic day, cosmic epoch. These have been tracked in ancient and advanced civilizations for hundreds, thousands of years that we considered them to be primitive. But really, those that had the knowledge and wisdom thought it would be the best way they could put their power over you would be to keep that knowledge and keep you in the dark about it. Because this flash is prophesied to be a supernatural event which transforms all living life into a higher state of consciousness. It's known as the ascension, or Great Awakening. And it's believed that the flash will activate our dormant DNA, which is, it's not just a magic presto change of wand. There's stages, there's waves to this. And cataclysmic earth changes and the fall of Babylonian civilizations it's all on par for all of this, guys. Truly. Let's see. What should we throw into the mix? Something. How about some crafty cuts? Maybe? Guess we'll see. In this process, while pushing the Earth into this higher density, thoughts manifest instantly. Telepathy is a method of communication. Our psychic ability starts cultivating, which we should have been cultivating ourselves to make a more graceful transition while we've been kept in a dense retardation. So now our sun's expected to, and it's going into a solar cycle even from science. And this solar minimum cycle is what's creating all these massive flares and the geomagnetic storms, and all of that has an impact on the geotectonic plates and the lava and water, the salt water in the oceans. It's all piezoelectric, guys. So when these surges happen, it activates this piezoelectric battery system that we're on, that we are too, by the way. You are salt water, so you're also a piezoelectric battery, so you better believe you get affected by this. So we're mixing some music and looking at it all. But biggest is, how can we activate our divine tech? Here we go.
We got the groove, we got the sound, we got the vibe to make you get down.
We do. We got the groove, we got the sound. These are all things we're going to use to activate our pineal gland. Radio transducer. Remember, your brain picks up electromagnetics and frequencies and processes those signals out to your reality. And that includes music and dancing and sound, and we're going to go through a lot of that. But we're looking at the aspects of what's looked at, as this quantum shift and the spectrum of consciousness that moves into this new age and that falls away because it's just of a lower density. And unfortunately, we've all been filled with this lower density frequency, these emotions, the static, the fear. So we got to find the groove and the sound again. We got to find our natural flow because it's been densified and we've been deceived from it, so to speak. Following your highest joy is one of the most magical things you can do. Surrendering and submitting to the flow. Feeling gratitude for blessings in your life. There's a lot of ways you can reintegrate the divinity of higher frequency emotion. But we got to retrain ourselves, and unfortunately we've unconsciously trained ourselves to be in the funk, sadly. And you know what happens? It just brings more funk. So we're going to explore how the technological age, the transhumanistic movement, really has worked to support that disillusionment. And as we've talked about, there's really two paths. There's the path of serving self and the path of serving God. And we've looked at the attributes of serving self and serving God. And unfortunately, through many layers of deception, including the New Age movement, and much of the spirituality, if you will, has also been repackaged and warped in this Wedicos virus narcissism, whether you want to call it my truth, your truth. There's just the truth. So when you put my in front of it, it gives the ego room to manipulate, justify anything to be okay without accountability. It's a really sneaky dynamic, this war in the mind to return to the heart, which has been bombarded with trauma. And again, like I said, everything you feel and everything you physically do, you accumulate in your body. It sits in your tissue. It compromises your cells. That's right. Divine frequency. That's it, baby. Because everything is about frequency. Frequency, waves, vibration. So we're going to look at the Christed process. We've looked at it several times over, but we're going to decode it a little bit more. Really go into it. and how it's been mutated into a fairy tale fable. But really, there's an allegorical metaphor that's reflective of your own physiology and anatomy towards this divine process. This specific excerpt is from Colin Smith's Secret of All Religions from 2018. It's a good starting point for us. You were taught that Jesus was crucified at the age 33 between two thieves at Golgotha, place of the skull, because it is the symbolic of the place within your skull between the left and the right hemispheres of the brain. Jesus' age of crucifixion symbolizes the spinal column with 33 vertebrae and the symbolic Jacob's ladder and the stairway to heaven. The third cross is the midbrain. The ventricles compose the literal Holy Grail shaped cavity. The inner sanctum, the holy place, which is represented by the manager, and then later the tomb of your skull, which shelters the Pia Mater, or the tender mother, which is again reflective of the Pingali. The pituitary and the pineal gland, okay? The mother and the father, the land of the milk and the honey. The sacred red blood cells. There we go. All of this responsible for producing this cerebrospinal fluid, the salt of salvation, where the chrism is born of the tender mother and baptized in the river Jordan. The spinal cord wanders its life throughout the nervous system and later returns as crucified at the 33rd vertebrae, where it crosses the arbor vitae of the cerebellum and returns to the cave where it is sanctified, made holy, and resurrected, or symbolically born again from the cave of the third ventricle, where you become baptized, anointed, or Christed, as the cycle continues over and again, just as the allegory of the risen phoenix, reborn or resurrected from its own ashes after death. In short, your body is a piezoelectric system that can move a bioelectric charge up it, and that piezoelectric charge, along with the prana, activates the electromagnetic field and the subtle essence that actually animates the electromagnetic field. See, in Western medicine, they only know the body to be electromagnetic. They don't understand that there is, and throughout all ancient civilizations, was it known that this subtle energy, this prana, this chi, would actually direct the electromagnetic charge of the body. And that you could move, oh, this is funky.
I'm going home.
It's a funky try, I gotta pause. Sacred pause. That you move this bioelectric charge through this piezoelectric battery system to activate the arcing of the hemispheres, right and left hemispheres, which activate the frontal cortex. We're talking down to the third and fourth ventricles of the brain, which stimulate the pineal gland and the pituitary to release two sacred secretions that combine at the base of the skull and drain down the spine, replenishing the nervous system and all of the cells every 11 months instead of every 7 years. Which would tie into so many figures in the most ancient of books and other books, but many ancient texts of men like Noah, who lived to be, let's say, 900 years. In fact, we saw a progressive decline of their years per generation. What was that? Was it a degeneration from some sacred divinity, some sacred genetics that we had? Or was it the systematic dumbing down and ignorance of humanity as we went in through this dark age? Either way, the pineal gland, or third eye, is the most heavily targeted and poisoned gland in the human body, mainly due to the spiritual influence it has on human awareness. So it's not just acting as a transducer, but it's also really good at deciphering or discerning between false stuff, lies, and truth. It acts as a truth detector, picks up subtle inconsistencies of lies or subliminal messaging that may be used as a veil to conceal true intentions. So it is a truth detector. But really, we were talking about this. The pineal gland is a transducer radio. So if you live in a more densified population, guess what? you have a denser radio band of frequencies you're picking up. I'll give you an example. Like, let's say Los Angeles, hundreds of radio stations you could pick up on that radio. Here where I live, there's like, I think 6 locally. We might pick up a few other ones from, regional places around, but there's only 6 frequencies. So as a metaphor, when you come here, the thought grid is much less dense here. So what we see is when people come here, their transducer so used to picking up all this denser radio band that they come here, and the nervous system is programmed to try to pick up all these channels, and they're not there. So it's a little disorienting, which is why I've seen significance in us resetting the nervous system for some of the practitioners and patients that have come here, and it helps reacclimate them to a less dense frequency band that they're picking up on. So much about our body's technology, it's so brilliant, it's been kept from us. It's really, really quite sad. Like, for instance, that your nose produces nitrogen oxide. And that nitrogen oxide increases the absorption of oxygen in the bloodstream by 10 to 15%. Some science says 20% when you breathe through your nose compared to breathing through your mouth. So when you're breathing through your nose in the Ujjayi breath, or when we do our breath of fire, you are flooding the nitrogen oxide into the body to support the oxygenation of the body, the cells, the brain, the blood. So all of these things are brought together, and science supports them. And all of this is a technology we were supposed to be cultivating since we were children. Now, there's much ancient art constructed by those that have controlled this world that give reverence to what this is. Make no mistake, they are very familiar. It has been marked and identified. Not to mention the reflection of the pine cone to even sound frequency, or the crown chakra sacred geometry itself. So they're familiar with the tech. It's even depicted in a lot of modern art. We have some general idea about it. But again, I've played some of this video before. I'm just gonna go down this rabbit hole with you and play this. It's a really deep decode, so beautifully done that we're gonna elaborate off of some more as we dive into really having a deeper understanding of our divine technology and how it works and how we can activate it. You gotta sometimes get the parameters or the breakdown of your tech once again. So repetition is key. So again, if you've seen this already, watch it again. I've watched it 10 times. I can watch it 100 times. I teach it all the time, but it's beautiful just to have it reflected back to me. And it actually inspires me to do these breath techniques even more. And remember, simple can be, we're just doing our breath techniques. In and out through the nose, forceful, pranayama. Do that for a minute. Blow all the air out. Breathless. Stay breathless. That kicks in the hypoxia. It floods all the oxygenated blood to the areas that need it the most. And then take that deep breath, pulling from the Kegels or from the pelvic floor muscles, guys. Pulling up beyond the abdomen, expanding into the chest, tucking the chin, which is a valve that locks, tongue pressed to the roof of the mouth, eyes rolled to the third eye, holding and squeezing. Those are all the piezoelectric flexion points that you're directing electromagnetic flexion systematically, moving it up, activating these sacred secretions. And the thing about it is you have to practice this. You can't just do it. There are some of us that are naturally better at doing it, but either way, to get the deepest aspects of what it does, one has to train thyself. One has to train the cellular unity of your organic computer. And that takes practice. It takes muscle memory, just like learning to do anything else. If you think that, if you accept that it takes a lot of practice to do art, to bowl really well, to play a specific sport maybe, or skateboard, you better believe to learn how to move the piezoelectric charge up your body and activate this sacred technology, it's going to take some muscle memory, some practice. Just like learning a specific dance, how to do liquid, how to pop and lock, all that stuff takes, you can't fake getting better at it. You have to sit there and practice your pops. practice your fluency of movement, liquid. This took forever to just sit playing with the muscle memory of how to make this really clean and make everything work in harmony to do this. A lot of extra time when I was younger that I do not have now currently with 4 children. So that just is what it is. Nonetheless, this is a beautiful video. I want it to be a base moving forward for us to explore and build off of in our deep dive into this portion of the sacred Christos and the lifting of the veil. Yeah? One of my favorites right here, guys. Crack and smack. All right, let's get into it.
The pineal gland is a neuroendocrine transducer, secreting melatonin responsible for physiological circadian rhythm control. A new form of biomineralization has been studied in the human pineal gland and consists of small crystals that are less than 20 microns in length. These crystals are responsible for electromechanical, biological transduction mechanism in the pineal gland due to the structure and piezoelectric properties. That's a lot of words to digest, but let's break it down into 2 meaningful points. The key words here are piezoelectric properties and transducer. The piezoelectric effect occurs when you apply pressure to certain materials, and that mechanical stress is changed into an electrical charge. To put it in simple terms, the pineal gland contains calcite crystals made of calcium, carbon, and oxygen, and because of their structure, they express this effect. Like an antenna, the pineal gland has the capacity to become electrically activated and generate electromagnetic fields that can tune into information. That's point number 1. In addition, in the same way an antenna pulsates a rhythm or frequency to match the frequency of an incoming signal, the pineal gland receives information carried on invisible electromagnetic fields. Since all frequency carries information, once the antenna connects to the exact signal of the electromagnetic field, there must be a way to convert and descramble that signal into a meaningful message. That's exactly what a transducer does, and that's the second point. A transducer is anything that receives a signal in the form of one type of energy and converts it into a signal in another form. Take a moment to look around you. The space you are sitting in is filled with TV, radio, and Wi-Fi waves that are all different frequency ranges of invisible electromagnetic energy. You can't see any of them with your eyes, but they're still there. For example, the antenna that picks up a range of frequencies carrying a signal to your TV is transduced into a picture on your TV screen. When you tune into an FM station, you are tuning your antenna to a specific electromagnetic frequency. The information carried in that frequency range is then transduced into a coherent signal, which is the music you hear with your ears. The study I quoted says the pineal gland is a neuroendocrine transducer, capable of receiving and converting signals within the brain. When the pineal gland acts as a transducer, it can pick up frequencies above our 3-dimensional space-time, sensory-based reality. Once the pineal gland is activated, it can tune into higher dimensions of this space and time, and like a TV, it can then turn the information carried on those frequencies into vivid imagery and surreal, lucid, transcendental experiences in our mind, including profoundly heightened multisensory visions beyond our vocabulary. For the pineal gland to become activated, some important things must happen. I will address them now. 1. The piezoelectric effect. Critical to creating the piezoelectric effect in the pineal gland are the calcite crystals mentioned above. Remember, these are very tiny crystals, approximately 1 to 20 microns in length. To put this in context, their size can range anywhere from 1/100th to 1/4 the width of a human hair. For the most part they are octahedron, hexahedron, and rhombohedron in shape. The purpose of the breathing technique we do before many meditations is to pull the mind out of the body by liberating potential energy stored as emotions in the lower 3 energy centers. As we inhale and contract those intrinsic muscles, follow our breath from the perineum, all the way up our spine to the top of our head, and then hold our breath and squeeze those muscles more. We're increasing intrathecal pressure. This is the internal pressure created when you push up against your insides. For example, when you hold your breath and lift something heavy. The word piezoelectric is derived from the Greek words piezein, which means to squeeze or press, and piezo, which means to push. When you do this, You are pushing cerebrospinal fluid up against the pineal gland, exerting mechanical stress on it. This mechanical stress translates into an electrical charge, and it's this exact action that compresses the stacked crystals in the pineal gland and creates a piezoelectric effect. The crystals of the pineal gland generate an electric charge in response to the stress you're applying. One of the unique characteristics of the piezoelectric effect is that it's reversible, meaning that the materials exhibiting the direct piezoelectric effect, the crystals, also exhibit a converse piezoelectric effect. Once the crystals in the gland are compressed and are creating an electrical charge, the electromagnetic field that is emanating from the pineal gland causes the crystals in it to stretch as the field increases. When the crystals generating the electromagnetic field reach their limit and can stretch no further, they contract and the electromagnetic field reverses direction and moves inward toward the pineal gland. When the electromagnetic field reaches the pineal gland crystals, it compresses them again, producing yet another electromagnetic field. This cycle of expanding and reversing the field perpetuates a pulsating electromagnetic field. When we inhale through our nose and at the same time squeeze our intrinsic muscles, we accelerate the cerebrospinal fluid into the brain. As we follow the movement of energy to the top of our head, then hold our breath and squeeze, we are increasing intrathecal pressure. The increased pressure moves the cerebrospinal fluid from the fourth ventricle, through a small canal into the third ventricle. At the same time, fluid traveling around the cerebellum compresses the crystals of the pineal gland. By increasing the intrathecal pressure, you funnel a greater volume of fluid into the chamber of the third ventricle, as well as from the space around the cerebellum. So when you hold your breath and squeeze, this extra volume of fluid exerts pressure from both directions up against the crystals, causing them to compress and create the piezoelectric effect. Now the pineal gland becomes a pulsating antenna, capable of picking up subtler and subtler, faster electromagnetic frequencies. This is the first event that must take place to activate the pineal gland. 2. The pineal gland releases its metabolites. On the surface of the pineal gland are tiny hairs called cilia, Latin for eyelashes. The action of the accelerated fluid moving faster than normal through the chambers of the ventricular system tickles the tiny hairs, which overstimulates the pineal gland. Because the pineal gland is shaped like a phallus, the stimulation produced by the acceleration of fluid moving past it, combined with the electrical activation created by an increase in intrathecal pressure in a closed system, causes the gland to ejaculate some very profound, upgraded metabolites of melatonin into the brain. The tiny cilia of the pineal gland become stimulated as the cerebrospinal fluid accelerates through the ventricular system. 3. Energy is delivered directly to the brain. Much like sending a rocket ship into space, overcoming gravity to get it off the ground is the part that requires the most energy, so to move that energy from our lower centers demands a great deal of intensity and effort. As you know by now, every time you perform the breath, you send charged particles up the spinal column. As these particles increase in velocity and acceleration, they create what's known as an inductance field. This inductance field reverses the flow of two-way information that typically facilitates communication from the brain to the body, and the body to the brain. Much like a vacuum, the inductance field draws the energy from those lower centers, energy involved with orgasm, consumption, digestion, fight or flight stress, and control, and delivers it directly to the brain stem in a spiraling motion. As the energy travels up through each vertebra, it passes the nerves that run from the spinal cord to different parts of the body, and some of that energy is then transferred through the peripheral nerves that affect the tissues and organs of the body. The current that runs along these nerve channels activates the body's meridian system, resulting in all the other systems of the body getting more energy. As energy is released from the body to the brain, it passes by each spinal nerve, exiting between each vertebra. The excitation of this system further switches on the peripheral nerves, which then transfer more energy to different tissues and organs in the body. As a result, more energy is delivered throughout the body. Once the energy reaches the brainstem, it must pass through the reticular formation. It's the job of the reticular formation to constantly edit information going from the brain to the body, as well as from the body to the brain. This formation is part of a system called the reticular activating system, which is responsible for levels of wakefulness. For instance, when you wake up from a deep sleep because you hear a sound in your house, it's the RAS that alerts you and arouses you. That's its rudimentary function. However, as the sympathetic nervous system is activated and merges with the parasympathetic nervous system, instead of depleting the body's stored energy, it releases that energy back to the brain. Once this energy reaches the brainstem, the thalamic gate opens like a door and energy moves through the reticular formation to the thalamus, where it relays information to the neocortex. Now the reticular formation is open, and you experience greater levels of awareness. In a sense, you become more conscious and awakened. Think of the thalamus as a big train station with tracks leading to the higher centers of the brain. That's how the brain goes into gamma brainwave patterns. Right between each thalamus located in the midbrain sits the tiny pinecone-shaped pineal gland, facing the back of the brain. As a side note, there are two individual thalami in the midbrain, one on each side, which feed each hemisphere in the neocortex. The pineal gland sits right between them facing the back of the brain. When the energy reaches each thalamic junction, remember the thalamus is like a relay station to all other parts of the brain. These thalami send a message directly to the pineal gland to secrete its metabolites into the brain. The effect is that the thinking neocortex becomes aroused and goes into higher brainwave patterns, like gamma.
So let's take a sacred pause, because that's a lot of condensed, powerful information. And I guess that's kind of my point, isn't it? You know, you hear about the third eye, you know. Unfortunately, a good portion of even the spiritual community is just undereducated. I hate to say it, we're pretty dumbed down people. We just don't really... How many of you knew a lot of the physiological mechanics of the process that maybe you've even tried practicing in a Kundalini class? Unfortunately, taught improperly. And we'll get to why that is. But how powerful is it to know the physiological process that you're doing physically and what it's creating? It's a beautiful and powerful thing. And it's not some spiritual foo-foo, woo-woo aspect of your body, of your spirit. You are hearing the real scientific breakdown of the physiological, anatomical, metaphysical process, quantum energetic process, the quantum physics of it all. Of just the electromagnetism alone. Piezoelectric charge. When you cause mechanical stress to these centers by flexing them, that's where you draw a piezoelectric charge. It makes sense. You're drawing that from the root all the way up. Most of humanity is stuck at the heart center. Heart, solar plexus to heart. It's where we see a lot of the blockages of this piezoelectric charge that we're supposed to be cultivating and drawing upward with our breath. And practicing. Because, you know, when you try to do all these series of mechanical stresses, these piezoelectric flexions in the body, you know, just like a dance move you're learning, it could be a little choppy, a little jerky, not as smooth, because you get smoother with practice. Just like we talked about, smoother with practice. So that aspect is something that can't be manufactured or cheated on or faked or manufactured in any way, really, besides practicing and putting the time, the energy, the discipline in, and the care and love and intention and ambition to activate the divinity of your technology. So I feel like going through the science should really fuel you to be excited to try these practices. Now, one thing that's not talked about, we're getting to that aspect of not even bringing this breath pressurization up properly in our classes that are taught in the Western culture for Kundalini, is there is a psychic exercise that you're supposed to do alongside the physical exercise that's being broken down here, because we are supposed to be developing our psychic ability. The psychic ability's foundation is imagination and visualization. So if I were to ask you all right now, I want you to see a pair of orange shoes in your head. See them. Don't think about it. What are they? What type of shoes are they? I'm sending you a picture of the shoes. So don't interpret it with your mind and your subjective filter. What are the shoes I sent you? Don't think about it. All types of orange shoes. Were they orange tennis shoe Converse shoes? Were they orange high heels? What did you manufacture subjectively? I sent you some orange kind of Converse-y. I left it almost broad, not to be exactly Converse, but like an orange kind of tennis shoe like that. So this mind's eye, when we learn to control it, you won't subjectively filter. You'll just see. You'll interpret the frequency. Like it said, the pineal gland can actually see. It has rods and cones similar to your eye. And they actually wire to the back of the brain where you see things. Just for perspective. So when they talk about a third eye being, conceptual, it's not. It's quite literal. The third eye is a transducer center. But the mind's eye is something that's uncomfortable because we're used to these eyes and seeing this way. So we have to realize that the real eyes are inside. So as you practice that visualization, when you do this exercise, taking that deep breath, pulling after we do, like, let's say a minute to a minute and a half of that pranayama, we take a deep breath. So as you're doing this, you're supposed to envision a column of light from earth to sky. And as the energy comes out the top, you're supposed to direct the energy into your field. That's right. We have the power to direct energy. Move energy. Now, if we don't know that, we're never going to practice it. It's like having an extra arm that you're not working out, so it's withering. It's getting atrophy. And so then you try to use it and it's uncomfortable. So you almost avoid working it out, and then it continues to atrophy. So when you incorporate this visualization, here's what happens. You're directing the energy you just built through the piezoelectric charge to encapsulate or be contained in your field. If you don't do this, you're going to bring that Kundalini energy up. And it's just going to sit at the crown, at the top, and it's going to either evaporate off, but very rarely does that happen because there are non-physical entities that consume the energy, harvest the energy off of humans, and they just come along and eat that energy off the top of your crown. You're not even using it. Honestly, you just left a big bowl of it there. In fact, I've been shown through some of the powerful blessed oracles that I've worked with who had no concept of Kundalini or Gurdwaras. They described seeing these Gurdwaras, these temples, as harvest centers for energy off of people that are just not directing the energy. What a powerful way to handicap such a powerful technology to activate our divinity and our divine technology by not teaching us a really basic aspect that's supposed to coincide with the physical exercise. And since we're so material anyways, we put everything into this material process and overly do these aggressive spinal flexes or pranayama and this aggressive pressurization when really you're supposed to be. See, what happens when you incorporate a visual psychic exercise with the physical is it makes you not focus on one too much over the other, which is great because we tend to do that in our species in the current state of the mind that's been so deeply indoctrinated in a system, indoctrinated and misdirecting focus. So I just want to add that piece in, that all of this very complicated process you're seeing happen, that's all part of the inner physician doing it. You just have to engage the vehicle, and engaging the vehicle, you actually activate all the processes we're learning about here, ultimately getting us to this gamma wave, brainwave length, this gamma activation in the brain where we're lighting up the neocortex and the higher centers, which then stimulates the secretions to flow. This is that sacred land of milk and honey where the body gets regenerated every 11 months instead of every 7 years, which changes the game. It breaks us out of the samsara wheel. Our lifespans are longer. We're able to actually transcend more lessons and evolve faster rather than having a shorter, more retarded lifespan where we are operating a biological computer, if you will, kind of in sleep mode, as if you just got a phone and it was set on sleep mode and somebody found it and was like, oh, did you know you can take sleep mode off? And it does all, or it didn't have the Wi-Fi connected, let's say. I hate to use these technological metaphors, but they work because they're a reference, so to speak. Let's continue.
The nature of those chemical derivatives of melatonin relaxes the body and at the same time awakens the mind. When energy moves from the body to the brain, a torus field is created around the body. When the pineal gland becomes activated.
So here it is. You can see it. This is the torus field energetically. But what you didn't know was that the user of the vehicle has to direct the energy to be contained. Because you directed the energy in the first place to be built up. Makes sense, right? Okay. This, to some degree, is what your energy field's doing all the time. But if you build this energy and direct it to go to the top, you have to direct it to encase back into the field.
A reverse torus field of electromagnetic energy moving in the opposite direction draws energy through the top of the head, into the body, from the unified field. Since energy is frequency, and frequency carries information, the pineal gland transduces that information into vivid imagery. When your pineal gland is awakened, because it is picking up higher frequencies, these higher energies alter the chemistry of melatonin. The higher the frequency, the greater the alteration. It's this translation of information into chemistry that primes you for those transcendental, mystical moments. This is why I like to call the pineal gland an alchemist, because it transmutes melatonin into some very profound, radical neurotransmitters. As higher frequencies and higher states of consciousness interact with the pineal gland, one of the first things to happen is that these frequencies transmute melatonin into chemicals called benzodiazepines. Benzodiazepines are a class of drugs, from which Valium is created, that anesthetize the analytical mind, so all of a sudden the thinking brain relaxes and stops analyzing.
Boom, I want you to think about this, because there's a lot of pharmakia where they're giving people artificial benzodiazepine besides the Valiums. People just, even one of my students has unfortunately been bombarded. We're working on getting him off of the benzodiazepines because you know what it does? It shuts down, like they said, the critical thinking, the analytic mind, which opens up your transducer to all kinds of static frequency thought forms. Think about that, because you have a harder time discerning between the frequencies coming in because it's shut off. Originally, the benzodiazepine is supposed to be naturally alchemized from the melatonin, and then eventually it alchemizes again into dimethyltryptamine. So you are not only a biological computer, but you are a biochemical, alchemical, transformative unit of consciousness, vehicle, vessel, device, really. A mobile, piezoelectric, alchemical transformation device. So all of this stuff is happening as you are doing the physical techniques. The inner physician is playing its role, but you must play your role as the user of the vehicle to direct the alchemy, to direct the energy.
According to functional brain scans, benzodiazepines suppress neural activity in the amygdala, the brain's survival center. This limits chemicals that cause you to feel fear, anger, agitation, aggression, sadness, or pain. Now your body feels calm and relaxed, but your mind is awakened. Another chemical created from melatonin produces a class of very powerful antioxidants called pinolines. Pinolines are important because they attack free radicals, which harm your cells and cause aging. These antioxidants are anti-cancer, anti-aging, anti-heart disease, anti-stroke, anti-neurodegenerative, anti-inflammatory, and antimicrobial. That's a perfect formula to upgrade melatonin's normal role as an antioxidant to the role of a supercharged antioxidant that further restores.
Boom, wait, hold up. Did you hear that? In the midst of this divine alchemy, do you produce these biopinines, these specific catalysts in your body that start killing degenerative or compromising cells? So could you think of a more brilliant design to the tech? Through the process of this alchemy, there is a transformative immunological healing benefit that comes in the process of activating this inner vision.
And heals the body to a greater degree than the melatonin molecule normally does. If you take that molecule and tweak it again into a cousin of melatonin, you find the same chemical that makes animals hibernate. When melatonin, which makes us sleepy and dreamy, alters just slightly into this more powerful molecule, it carries a message to extend rest and repair even further. Because the body is no longer the mind, we temporarily lose our interest in the outer world. And because we have no biological drives and aren't distracted with bodily needs, we're able to move more fully into the present moment and go deeply within. If you take that molecule and advance it yet again, you produce the same chemical found in electric eels, a phosphorescent, bioluminescent chemical that amplifies energy in the nervous system. This chemical can be powerful enough to cause a significant shock. Just imagine an electric eel that literally lights up with energy when it gets stimulated. That's what happens in the brain when it gets activated. Not only does this phosphorescent, bioluminescent chemical increase the energy in the brain, but it enhances the imagery the mind internally perceives so that everything looks as though it's made of vivid, surreal, luminescent light. As a result, people have reported experiencing colors they've never seen before, because they exist outside their known experience of the visible light spectrum. These colors appear as profound, otherworldly glowing lights in a technicolor, lucid, opalescent world of suspended beauty. Everything appears as if it's emitting beautiful light made of vivid, radiant energy that you can feel. Alter melatonin one more time and you produce the chemical dimethyltryptamine.
And that's our spirit molecule activator. But I just want to reflect to you guys the aspect of this piezoelectric bioluminescent activation that has been experienced by thousands of people that have gone through this process. We can correlate the experience of witnessing the bioluminescent catalytic final stage before it goes to dimethyltryptamine. And you see it in what appears dark in the eyes when you do this pressurization. By the way, as I'm watching this, I'm literally just practicing my pressurizations as I'm watching this right now. Always practicing them. Always practicing this pull where you're using the cavities of the body to almost vacuum pull the energy up and move it up. Closing the throat puts that pressure on the base, the back of the skull, accelerating the ventricle pressure and this cranial pressure within the brain. All of it is intuitive. You already know how to do it, but you got to start practicing it again.
One of the most powerful hallucinogenic substances known to man. When ayahuasca or other plant chemicals containing this molecule are ingested, the body receives only DMT. But when the pineal gland is activated, it receives the whole blend of aforementioned chemicals, and this causes some very profound inner experiences. Some of these experiences have been reported to create profound time dilation, where time appears infinite. Time travel, journeys to paranormal realms, visions of complex geometric patterns, encounters with spiritual beings, and other mystical interdimensional realities. Now, because the pineal gland is activated, we can pick up higher frequencies, which in turn produces a change in chemistry. The higher the frequency we pick up, the more it alters our chemistry, which means the more visual, hallucinogenic, and higher energy experiences we have. The crystals in our pineal gland, acting like a cosmic antenna, are the doorway to these higher vibrational realms of light and information.
That's right, they are. And what a fascinating
The crystals in our
aspect, just in and of itself. We just leave it on this slide here. The depth of our technology, friends, that each of us, you got that upgrade. You got that tech. It's in you. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to pay for an upgrade. It's there. It's just been shut down. It was never cultivated. Like many other aspects of our super divine technology. It's right there for you. And it's up to us to put forth the effort to tune out and turn away from the external distractions in the five sense reality and start cultivating. That's the tough part. This is an internal thing that you have to practice. I promise you, if you put the energy and time in, just even once, you do something spiritually beneficial today, it will inevitably enhance your tomorrow. The first couple times you try anything is awkward and uncomfortable. Did I do it right? I don't really know. That's where coming back, returning to it, to try it again, is one of the biggest tests on who earns these higher states of consciousness. It was always a discerning test on the yogic path that I was raised in the Eastern sciences, having a deeper understanding for. A challenge that I saw that I had to get past if I wanted to be on this path. I actually saw it as something ambitious that caused me to strive through. But to bring this piezoelectric charge up this series of mechanical stresses that we're creating, flexing, there is a deeper metaphysical side to the energies, frequencies, states of human experience for each of these centers. Let's go through just a brief review. The root chakra. It's about being grounded, protected, feeling protected. These are the balanced feelings, by the way. Your basic needs feel covered. You feel a sense of personal security and sovereignty and connected to the world. And from that foundation and strength, you can bring that energy up. In fact, I just saw something today that said so many people are focused on ascending. Nobody's focused on grounding. You got to be grounded before you can bring the energy up. So one of the ways that my teachers talked about was that your anus, that's right, folks, we're talking about the anus, it houses the polyvagal nerve system. Now, unfortunately, you are clenching this throughout your teenage years, your acclimation to your body, compressing into your system, clenching, trying to know how to stand or be. Remember, it's that security. It's feeling protected, which we don't in this intense world as a child a lot of times. So the sacral, the root, gets compromised. Feels ungrounded, unsecure. So it's hard for that energy to go past. But when you clench the anus, it's like a doorway. So we have one doorway down here and one doorway here and a hallway in between. And the energy can't go up the hallway or through the hallway if one door is open. The base door you enter through is open. You got to close that door so the energy can build up. So that's one of the ways, is learning to not just lock down the root, the anus, but learn how to actually strengthen the pelvic floor, the Kegel muscles. And that includes learning to relax it as well. As we move up into the sacral chakra, the sacral center, the sex center, the creative center, that's just it, creativity. We are conditioned into a left brain to be chronically dominant in the left brain, which is not the right brain, which is the receptive, creative side of consciousness. Even in our school systems, in institutionalized education, pushes us right into the left. There's an overwhelming joy that comes for simple things when the sacral center is active and healthy. Obviously, the repression, suppression, oppression of our sexuality has really compromised the sacral center. You know, we have repression, or the other extreme, perversion. We definitely don't have a healthy cultivation in our society. We don't really have a deeper understanding of how sexuality works at all on an electromagnetic level. So we're kind of in the state of, and I'm going to say it because I can swear on the show because I'm not on people where I try to curb myself, but we're monkey fucking. We're lower level animal reproducing, mating. I mean, and we're doing it irresponsibly. I think we can see that just in the situation that's ensued over the Planned Parenthood illusion, if you will. The misuse of sexuality in our culture is ridiculous. So as much as everyone feels so disempowered about what's come to pass, where you have to actually be more responsible with your sexuality, because your body, your choice, is up until you choose to do that act where there's other responsibilities around it that you take on and create a living thing inside of you that's separate from your DNA. So it's not really your body anymore. It's another creature's body, your creature. And so, cool, you want to be responsible with your sexuality? Get a vasectomy, get one of those Nuvo rings. Why didn't you do that in the first place if you were just going to be responsible with your sexuality? I'm just saying. So, you know, also the sexuality irresponsibility, it ties to money and prosperity as well. Big time. So these things all start harmonizing as you balance the centers. And moving up from the sexual center is, of course, the solar plexus center. This is more like earthly embodiment of things when we're in this lower center. Has to do with the body-mind connection. Has to do with your health. Also inner peace. But like I said, love, acceptance, and actually not going into the not self-patterning of the solar plexus, which is escaping into the physical aspects, the lower frequency benefits or effects of food and things and material things and stuff, misusing our willpower, and directing it to a more conscious place of evolution. And this is, like I said, the stuck center for us going, because most of us breathe in our bellies and in our breath, which you're not really supposed to do, guys. You have a set of upper respiratory and lower respiratory. And when you take a deep breath, you're actually supposed to breathe past your abdomen, fill the upper and the lower, and then the stomach comes out a little bit at the end. You're not supposed to lead with your abdomen. You're not supposed to breathe through your mouth. When you breathe through your nose, you get that nitrogen oxide, and also you fill that upper respiratory first before the lower. So even down to our breath has been distorted, perverted, retarded, so that we're breathing our chi down here in our bellies rather than up in our heart center. So that's why our awareness is more in the belly. We're not really, the awareness through breath and prana is not in the heart. We're not breathing in the heart. So when it's balanced, you're more consciously awake, ready to expand yourself. You're authentically really in that heart. And I mean, the best way to love yourself is to bring your prana into your heart center and have it just fluxing and activating and nourishing all the time. Then you're going to be in this authentic place of loving yourself, and then you can actually love others. It is, it's the most beautiful process. Children are magical. When you have kids, they actually help bring you into the center more. If you're, engaging and being involved in the lessons. You can also throw those away. Next from the heart, we go to the throat chakra. Ooh, this is like a motor center. It's taking these lower motors of your consciousness and giving an outlet to the world through the voice. All of humanity changed when our vocal cords developed into a phonetic language. It's also the language of the ego, if you think about it. The ego produces thoughts, and language is part of the human identification into the I am and the ego. And of course, our word spell language has been completely indoctrinated. We've played with this a lot of times where we say good morning. Morning is actually to mourn the loss of somebody. Why would you say that? Wouldn't you say good rising, grand rising, right? Or how about how everyone says sorry? Sorry. Sorry is the root of sorrow, to weep. So much of our language, we just don't even question. We say it. So as this energy center becomes more balanced, you have more definition in speaking with meaning. We tend to have a vocal diarrhea these days, and how we waste energy through our throats, rambling. Or we say things and we don't follow through with them. Oh yeah, bro, I'll help you out with this. Yeah, no problem. Let's do it Tuesday. Not ever going to happen, because again, words and the spoken word has lost its meaning. Back in the day, your word was your bond. It represented everything. But so much of our character, our integrity has faded. And I believe a good portion of that is from the transhumanistic technological indoctrination, because everything's on the surface. It just is. So when you take this center back, you bring yourself back to a greater human being, and you will stand out to others, and then you'll start seeing what an epidemic we're in. And that it is important to teach through example as you embody these. Now I want to just mind that, keep the awareness that this whole chakra energy center system is a Western thing. Even in the yogic culture, they never had these rainbow colored centers that were very linear. That is a Western civilization thing. We like to categorize things. There was a marker of energy centers, but they weren't straight up in a line. They were kind of off to the side, and there was only like 4 or 5 of them marked. And in human design, they say that we're actually 9-centered beings. We already have 2 more centers, and we don't even know it. It's part of, we're now 9-centered humans living in a 7-centered reality. Even the spiritual teachings came through 7-centered humans, and we are this evolving mutation. So, and we didn't get the memo. So So what's that third eye? Either way, when we look at the characteristics of it, this is about the third eye. This is the pineal, like we talked about. Your intuition is on point. You are more dialed in your perception of reality. And it's not just critical thinking and discernment. It's actually creative thinking. You're balanced in your hemispheres. In order to activate the pineal gland, the third eye, you have to balance the hemispheres of the brain. You have to be balanced. You can't be chronically left or chronically right. And of course, as we move to the crown, that top center I talked about, protecting the energy of and directing it into the field. They say that the ajna is about getting answers, the head is about asking questions to the universe. In this specific chart, it talks about when you're balanced, your senses are sharp, but you're not oversensitive. You feel inspired often, open to new ideas. You can see yourself without forming negative judgments from a place of neutrality. You're moving more into an objective, transpersonal observer, out of the subjectivity of the illusion that I am this role in the plot, in the movie, and, you know, and really the illusion of separation. So there are so many guidelines to support this process of higher living in other cultures. This is the yamas and niyamas. Just a small template here of ways to inspire this higher living as you balance these centers. Like, cleanliness is close to godliness. Try to be content. Do your best. Study yourself. Psycho self-analysis is one of the most powerful things you can do in this war on the mind that we are in. Humbleness, reflected through so many prophecies that the meek will inherit the earth, the righteous will fall. So put that in check on the average. Avoiding the hoarding, the greediness. Again, you can see a parallel to what they refer to as these 7 sins, right? Sin just meaning miss the mark. Really, they're just attributes of the Luciferian consciousness, the narcissism, the Oedipus virus from us falling as the Witican civilization. It's rampant and we're desensitized to it. Consciously directing your energy. Brahmacharya, right? That's an interesting one because we talked about directing your energy in these practices, didn't we? You direct your energy in life. Reality is what consciousness chooses to focus on. So your thoughts define your reality. You could live in a beautiful tropical place and be in your own personal hell, mentally running your thoughts. You could also be potentially in a very harsh neighborhood or living environment and find a positivity and a joy in just being alive. Obviously, don't steal. Again, crossing the ultimate illusion that I'm separate than you, and so by stealing this from you, I'm going to gain something, not, wait, you are me. So, wait, that doesn't make any sense. I steal from myself? Telling the truth, living in the truth. Not your truth, by the way, to the New Cage psychosis. There's just the truth. There is no your truth and my truth. There's the truth, and if your truth is aligned with the truth, there you go. But if your truth is over here and the truth is here, that's just some bullshit. It needed to come back to the truth. It's a collective awareness we can establish together. Truly. And of course, nonviolence. Unless one has to defend themselves against the harm of the innocent or to defend the innocent. They're pretty basic and simple, friends. And there's so many ways through the plant kingdom and healthy things that can help to clear the blockages for these energy centers in this piezoelectric charge to move through the biochemical relationship with foods, living foods. Here's just a mild list you can take a look at of healthy food medicine, creating an alternative to the pharmakia, to what they really want to sell us to be the ultimate customers of. So it's all there for us to explore if we want to, or we could just, watch Netflix every night. I know it can be tough, especially if you're in just a really busy day of intensity. You're a parent, you're going nonstop. You just want to chill for those few hours before you have to wake up and do it all again. But this is where we have to dig deep, because I promise you, if you take even 30 minutes, let alone an hour, to put some energy into practicing this inner cultivation, it will make up for 3 to 4 hours of that sleep or zoning out. I challenge you, because I see it in my own life. Same way. 4 kids, sometimes I find myself not wanting to create, not wanting to do something, not wanting to cultivate, but just sit and watch the latest movie that came out, telling myself, oh, I can decode some things in this, blah, 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 blah. Okay? The reality is there's no better time spent than time directed and focused at God, which is you, and your divine relationship with. So on that note, that's going to be our show for this beautiful Release Sundays Live. Feel free to check out, there's a lot of videos on Matrix Body Mechanics TV here on YouTube that has all kinds of deeper explorations into the technology we've been touching base on. Whole videos for breath techniques, Kriya sets, you name it. Also, I'm teaching, and there's a ton of content on the Syncretism Society. We'll be opening our own Matrix Body Mechanics online platform, where I'm going to release all those videos to you guys to go through them, all types of classes, the 10 bodies set, the 5 tattvas, 5 elements set. There's so much information out there for you to explore. And again, I was hearing someone talk about this the other day, that there's like this, oh, nobody watches a video that's more than 3 or 4 days old. What? There's so much good stuff that we've already put out that's just sitting on this channel. You can go back through and explore. Please don't get into that category of only the latest, freshest video. Much love to you, beautiful Rain, Ancient Oracle. So glad you tuned in. And truly, Satguru Mukhar, always glad for you to be here on these Sundays. Always here. I'm so grateful for you being a part of the show. And all of you tuning in, really, it makes me, inspired to do this in the midst of so much intensity. I want to get on here and connect with you guys and be here and present for you guys. So this channel and putting all this stuff out is for a way I can reach you, because I can't physically be there to teach and play and go into these sciences with you, which I would. And of course, obviously, our show on Mondays is exploring more externally the situation we're in as we're internally cultivating this divine grounded intelligence and wisdom. We're aware of the Great Tribulation and awesome intensity all around us, in it, but not of it. Remember, Sri Tesswire, what can I say? Beautiful lineages of powerful yogis. It's one of my favorite things that we haven't gotten to be blessed with some of these elder Jedis the same way. So learn about them. Learn about Paramahansa Yogananda, Sri Tesswire, Babaji. Beautiful, inspired, empowered, activated Christ. Let's just focus on Christ. Some of the deeper aspects of this divine alchemist. As they all were divine alchemists, they learned the divine alchemy. Everything that happens to us is a test of God to see how we behave. Whoa. If you really got that, that's what this whole thing is. It's not a mean test too, by the way, like parents that test their kids to see what they're going to do. That shit is, inhumane. Okay. And I've had that done to me before. This is actually part of one of the things we came in knowing. That you go into school knowing you have to produce grades, and you'll have some freedom to pick your classes, but eventually there's going to be tests, and it's to see how you did and how you learned and what you were there for. So that's more what this is about, and it can be applied to your life and your awareness each day and inspire you, not out of obligation or fear. Inspire you. So to bring you ultimately back to this divine state of magic that we all are, that they've worked very hard to keep you from truly understanding that you are, and that's one of the reasons we do this. So on that, let's close it out with a beautiful track, shall we? It's always a pleasure, truly. We have a lot coming up. The 13 video NMRT self-treatment system series videos we're going to be releasing. You can learn how to do this work on yourself, but just remember, just giving a squeeze, go side to side, up and down. See, it makes a cross. So you squeeze, release, squeeze, release. Just do this all over your body. Watch what happens. Your body will start warming up, start feeling all tingly, get those endorphins releasing. It'll help your body relax to go to sleep. We got Released, the movie part 2 coming up. Under the gun to get done in November. I'm about to go into the fall NMRT program to get 4 more practitioners out in the world sharing this work. I'm very excited. Some very magical people coming together to gather, to do a lot of healing on ourselves. Ultimately first, before we can fractal out to heal the world. Got to heal yourself first. That's also what this episode's about. And so much more to come. King Raji's going to be on our show coming up. Really stoked about that. And I'm going to be on his show. A lot more funky guests coming up, especially as we get closer to the premiere of the film. And please share this film if you get a chance, if you feel called. Share, again, releasethemovie.com. Really easy to tell people. Because it's got to get out there. That's what the film is also about, how powerful we are. Truly, truly. So, on that note, I guess I'm going to throw in a little mix. And final mix, what do you say? Because I haven't done too many mixes today. So for those of you that care for the mixes, throw a little mix in at the end. I think it does something to the brain, honestly, to hear 2 tracks in harmony. Reflects us. We're 2 different tracks coming together in harmony. That was a pretty cool change up. Should we go back? All right, back again. It feels really good to mix 2 tracks together and create that coalescing harmony. Yeah, that's our show. I appreciate all of you so much. Truly, thanks for tuning in. Feeling connected to you all on the most remote island in the world per square mile in every direction. So it's a blessing to be able to connect with you all. Truly. On that note, I'll see you next week, or see you tomorrow for Matrix Body Mechanics Live on People Radio and Rumble. And we got a lot to get into this week, and enjoy this Sunday. It's a good day, it's Day of the Sun, to practice some of the things that we've talked about today. Feel free to rewatch that video on the pineal gland. You know, good stuff in there. I'd watch that video 10 times because, you know, you can learn more about it yourself and talk to people about it. Thank you, Michelle. Love you, loving the mix. Truly. I don't get to play as many events, being so busy with the kids and everything. I'm excited to in the future, but, yeah. For now, it's an awesome thing to be able to share mixing music with you all across the globe. Picked up on our transducers, so thanks for tuning your transducer to this frequency. We appreciate you. We'll see you next Sunday. Aloha and Satnam.